Secret Metropolitan Police reports have said that 100,000 young people in London have been the victims of Pakistani Muslim R-gangs. This is a figure which perhaps isn't completely astonishing given that there are 500,000 victims outside of London. But what is remarkable is the way that this figure is being suppressed. Only this week, Keir Starmer said that he would not allow the public to know the level of criminality, the level of organised crime caused by migrants. But this case, the attack on young people, is perhaps the most serious of them all. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video. But you know, if every single one of you that watch this subscribe, we'd be 200,000 subscribers. I'm desperate to get to that, so please do subscribe below. Listen, I've attacked Sadiq Khan on multiple occasions for multiple things. I don't like the man and he personally dislikes me. I've reported him to the police on multiple occasions for fraud and all sorts of things. But the thing that I most dislike about him, it's not the dishonesty about Hezbollah Tahrir, it's not the defending of Tees in his South London law practice, it's not the fact that he was supporting members of Hezbollah Tahrir in Guantanamo Bay who he'd never even met and who never even had come to London. It's this issue with the grooming gangs. The grooming gangs we know have existed right across the country, and now this week we've seen this major report by the Daily Express which has proved that grooming does exist in London. Sadiq first of all said that grooming gangs didn't exist at all, and even if they did exist, they definitely wouldn't exist in London. That is something that I find utterly reprehensible from somebody who's supposed to be the Mayor of London. But this figure of 100,000, we don't know the full timescale, though to be fair, the timescale might be a long time. We don't know how many thousands of children are currently being attacked. I sit here today in South London in Talk TV, and I'm just maybe 2, 3, 4 miles from children being tortured right at this moment, and yet the Mayor of London is desperate to disguise it. And why is the Mayor of London, and why is Keir Starmer so desperate to disguise it? Well, we heard this week from Keir Starmer when he effectively classified those figures on the number of migrants who've been guilty of crimes. Now, what do those figures say? I would love to go through them, and I would love to tell you precisely what the details were. And also, it could well be, why am I even saying this? It could well be that these figures prove that migrants do not have a greater propensity to commit crime. I suspect they don't, and that's why they've been hidden away from the public. But why is it that we are constantly in this position, and we've talked about it on this channel on multiple occasions, whereby we aren't able to talk about the real issues of the day because we are so determined to stand up for political correctness? What is the harm in admitting now that the immigration policy that we've had for all these years has been wrong? What would be the harm in admitting that there were grooming gangs, that Pakistanis did have a greater propensity towards it? I mean, it's ludicrous what we've done. We've given what I always call the Philomena Kunk statistic. You remember Philomena Kunk? I've mentioned this before on the channel. She said that 40% of people killed or injured in road traffic accidents were caused as a result of people drink driving, but 60% were not. Therefore, you are safer being with a drunk driver. Now, I think everybody can see why that statistic was stupid, and indeed it was a comedy show. But at the same time, we're being told that you are more likely to be the victim of SA from a white guy than you are from a Pakistani Muslim, and that is certainly true. But it's also true that we're in an overwhelmingly white British country. That is still true today, by the way. I know people, certainly in cities, don't see that, but Britain still remains predominantly British. And I think that's something that's important to remember when we come to the, not the fight back's the wrong word, but trying to take our country back. We do remain in the majority. But what are we saying here? What we're saying is that certain groups, for whatever reason, have a greater propensity towards certain types of crime. Pakistani Muslims are, 20 times more likely to commit SA crimes in the UK. Afghans are even higher. They're about 25 times more likely than the average. And therefore, whilst you are still overwhelmingly in a white British country, most likely to be a victim of a white British person, it is nonetheless true to say that based on the percentage of the population, they are disproportionately much more likely to have behaved in this way. That is what is being disguised here. And I've also said something else on this channel, which all of the lefties refuse to accept. There are two axes, aren't there, when it comes to criminality. One is the number of offenders, and two is the amount of time they're able to offend for. It's actually the big problem when we talk about Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs. The big problem is not so much the number of offenders, it's the amount of time they've got away with it, and also the fact that because it's been so normalised within that community, you have people who wouldn't be as involved as they would have been normally. The opportunists, if you like, have come in, and that accounts for the huge increase. So then you have to ask yourself this: who is the biggest criminal here? Is it the ordinary perpetrator, bad guy, right? Or is it Sadiq Khan and the Metropolitan Police, the guys and Keir Starmer who've covered this up for so many years? If this figure from this hidden Metropolitan Police report that we're only hearing rumours about, if this figure of 100,000 victims is true, that would be a colossal number. I think already we're estimating outside London the number of victims to be 500,000 to 1 million. But we're now talking about 1 million young people in Britain hard by Pakistani Muslim gangs. That's not a crime. That's not organised crime. That's a genocide in of itself. And we know that people say that it's part of a project of ethnic cleansing. If you continue to live here, we will take your daughter. And not because necessarily we're committed to abuse, but actually because either she becomes part of our community or she has to leave. But if she decides to stay, then she becomes the concubine of a Pakistani Muslim man. I think that is absolutely disgraceful. Now I'll leave you with this final thought before I go. You look at the woke left. You look at all of the people complaining about slavery. There it is. You look at all the people complaining about racism. There it is. You talk about all those people talking about people settling in a particular area. There it is. The reality is that there is a problem with slavery still in this world today, modern day slavery, but this modern day slavery is not being perpetrated by white people, which is why nobody is remotely interested in talking about it. I will say to you that ethnic cleansing, genocide and slavery, that is what the grooming gang is all about. It's not really, God, I know this sounds stupid and please don't have a go at me or clip this out, but it's not just a sex crime. That's the point that people forget. Your average nonce down the street, he's just interested in what he's interested in for his own gratification. But what this is about breaking the will of a population. It's about kicking them out from their ancestral territory. It's about building a whole new, I was about to say a whole new Jerusalem, but perhaps a whole new Mecca would be the way of talking about it. And it's not the fault of every single Muslim, and it's not the fault of every single Pakistani, but it is the fault of the perpetrators more than anything else. It's the fault of the people that covered it up. 100,000 victims. Sadiq Khan doesn't care. He's denying it even took place. He's still denying it, by the way, even today, 2 days after the Metropolitan Police admitted that they were investigating thousands of Pakistani Muslim men. What can you say about that? Please do subscribe below. Until next time, goodbye.